Over $70,000 in debt. Advice, please. Hello all, I have contemplated posting this so much. Please, no harsh comments. If you don't want harsh comments, you can't post on Reddit. I really don't have anyone to talk to about this. My husband, 29, and I, 28, have 3 kids, 12, 3, and 21 months. We have about $33,000 in personal loan debt. We have about $45,000 in credit card debt, and we owe about $28,000 on our truck loan. I pay $145 a week. We've had this truck since the end of 2020. Monthly breakdown: $1,635 in credit card payments, $1,141 in personal loan payments, $580 truck payment, $2,300 mortgage payment, $155 cell phone bill, $275 for car insurance, $840 to $900 in gas. Are you guys driving like 2,000 miles a week? Oh my goodness, that's so much money. About $350 to $600 in groceries and necessities. That's not specific enough. We need to see a better breakdown than that. And other bills like electricity, gas, sewage, water, waste, and internet is about $200 to $250 a month. I think these are most of our expenses. Of course, sometimes we do not need to make emergency expenses. We've used up the last $2,000 we had saved in September to pay our mortgage. It is now the 24th and we have not paid our mortgage. I'm not sure how to go about anything anymore. I am so scared that my kids and I will be left without a roof over our heads. As you guys can tell, we are barely making it. Sometimes we do end up being negative. I work for a small cell phone franchise and I bring in $4,000 a month after taxes and get paid on the 1st and 15th. And my husband is a courier. He gets paid weekly, brings in about $4,000 to $4,800 a month after taxes, depending on overtime. During tax season, I prepare taxes. However, I do not make much since I do not have many clients and it's seasonal. I have taken all courses to take the real estate license exam, but I don't have time to study for the test since I'm always busy with work or taking care of my kids. It has now been 2 years since I've completed those courses. Definitely would need a refresher. A little background on how our debt got so bad. In the past few years, my husband has been out of a job 5 times. I do want to note that all the times he has been without a job, it has not been because he did something wrong. I can further explain, but I don't think it would really change anything. First time, he didn't work for 2 months. Second time, he didn't work for about 2 weeks. Third time, for about 4 to 5 months. At this time, I was 6 months pregnant and would have random falls and have a lot of sciatica pain to where my doctor took me out of work. That's completely understandable. No worries there. So we were both unemployed. I had to go back to work when I was 28 days postpartum. He didn't go back to work until 1 month after me. His 4th time, he didn't work for about a month and a half. His last time, he didn't work for a month. He works for a big known company and they have found XYZ reasons on leaving him without a job. He doesn't leave his job because his job offers benefits and mine doesn't. He has been at this company for 10 years this year. We do not foresee him being without a job now, since one of the reasons he was out of a job before is due to his health issues, which have now been resolved. Your husband works for one company, but they just aren't giving him work. Is he not salaried? I guess he's probably hourly. I guess that's my first set of advice, is if his job's not reliable on giving him hours and allowing him to earn an income, he needs to find a new job. I'm sure he can find a new job that is on salary or is at least more reliable that can make a similar income. So I'm also glad his health issues have been resolved. So hopefully that will help. But this doesn't sound stable. He seems like he needs to find a new place to work if it's not going to be reliable. During all these times he would stop working, I would find myself extremely stressed to the point that I was literally shedding hair, not eating, and always had a lot of anxiety on trying to figure out how to get the bills paid. I would find myself pulling out money from credit cards to be able to pay our mortgage, bills, car payments, feed my family, and gas. We tried taking on jobs like Amazon Flex, selling whatever we don't need, but we weren't getting enough to get us by. Slowly but surely, our debt kept getting bigger. Then your husband needs to go find a new job. He needs to take responsibility for himself and his family and get something that's reliable. I know there's health issues there, so I'm going to be somewhat understanding. If there's health that was preventing him from working, that's understandable, but nothing else is understandable. He's got to go find a reliable job. Now, we've paid off some of our debts, but the interest is killing us. I have tried balance transfers, but we cannot get them paid off on time. I have tried to consolidate our debt, but nothing has worked so far. Bankruptcy is not an option. I have talked to companies that have debt relief programs. I actually almost went through with it until they asked me to stop making payments. I've never missed a credit card or personal loan payment, and that scared me, so I changed my mind. Yeah, they're probably asking you not to make payments because they want you to eventually settle with these loan companies. That will take a hit to your credit. So I'm not super worried about your credit right now. We just need to get you out of this mess. We need to get your cash flow fixed. So credit's not a huge concern, but it will hit your credit if you stop making payments. So make sure you keep that in mind. All right. This person basically goes on to talk about how they bought an SUV and it kept getting wrecked and they kept running into situations where they had to pay $1,500 to fix their car. And then they wrecked it again and they had to pay $5,000. Then they had to pay $3,000. And then they had to buy another commuter car for $5,000. So just a lot of things happened with the car. They talked about how they have really bad luck, etc. So I kind of felt like this was rambling and I didn't want to keep reading the rest of it. Just thought I would summarize it for you. But oh my gosh, this is a mess. I feel stressed too, just reading this. But first off, I think you just need to take a step back and take a deep breath. There is a financial answer to this question, and we'll definitely get to that. But right now, I just feel like you're hurting and struggling, and you're feeling a lot of anxiety about this financial situation that you're in. And I don't think you're thinking about this super logically. I think you're just panicked and making some bad decisions. But I think if you actually take a step back and look at the numbers, you'll find that there's actually a solution here. And the first thing I noticed reading your posts is that it seems like you're blaming a lot of external factors for a lot of the financial issues you're having. And I don't want to take that away from you. Bad things happen. I'm sure it's been super hard to navigate, but that's just life. It happens, and you've got to be ready for it. So again, I'm not blaming you for these things that are happening. Stuff like that happens in life all the time. But it's time for you and your husband to look in the mirror, say enough is enough, and take accountability for your financial future. Because believe it or not, it is in your control. And there are things that you can do to prepare for these things that are coming up. It's time to take responsibility. So right off the bat, this is why myself and a lot of other people that are into personal finance like to recommend an emergency fund. And it sounds like you had a small one, but if you had a fully loaded emergency fund with like 6 months of living expenses in it, that would have covered all of your family's periods of unemployment, and it would have covered all of those accidents that taken place. And it definitely still sucks to dip into that emergency fund to pay these off, but it's way less stressful than the situation you got yourself in where you had nothing and then you had to scrap and find a way to get out of this mess. That's what led you to taking out loans and credit cards, and that's why you're in a hole. So you got to have the emergency fund built up. And again, none of these accidents are your fault, but it is your responsibility to make sure that you have a safety net or an emergency fund put in place. So that is your fault. So for now, since you're just scraping by and trying to survive, try to build up a small emergency fund. Try to see if you can get a few grand in there, like $3,000 to $5,000, just as a starter emergency fund to get you by in case any other unexpected things come up. Eventually, when you're fully out of debt, you're going to want to build this up to be 6 months worth of living expenses, but we're not there yet. Okay, next let's talk about your budget, because this just is not making sense to me. All of your expenses and debt payments add up to $7,836 a month. But based on your income and your jobs, it seems like you're bringing home $8,800 a month. And it sounds like you also have some seasonal work on top of that. And that situation isn't great, but it should be a lot better than the one that you initially described. At the very least, you should be able to meet your minimum obligations every month. So make sure your budget is accurate, because I have a feeling it might not be, and see if there's any areas that you can cut down drastically. And that's where I'm asking you just to look at this logically and not from a state of emotion, because when you actually look at the numbers, you make more than you're spending. So you have wiggle room and you should be able to make all of your obligations. All right, and once your budget's in order, once you know it's accurate, and once you've found areas to cut down, it's time to grind to pay off this debt. We need to cut down expenses as quickly as possible. The expense that stood out to me is transportation. You claim to have financed a new truck in 2020, which makes absolutely no sense in your financial situation, especially if this is the period of time where your husband was out of work. And this is an example of something that was in your control. So it's not all just external things that are happening to you. So this is what I mean when I say you have to change your mindset. And I think that you're in a financial crisis and you need to get out of this loan. And I think you should sell the truck. If the truck's only a few years old, I feel like you should be able to sell it for more than that loan is worth. The loan doesn't seem absurd for a truck, and that would knock out all of the debt on the car. But if it comes out to a few $1,000s short, you should still sell it and then see if you can get a personal loan to make up the difference. And that way you'll only be a few $1,000s in debt because of the car instead of $28,000 in debt. And then try to get by on one car to see if you can get out of this mess. If you really need a second car, you can buy a piece of crap just to get you from point A to point B with cash that you save up. But doing this is going to open up a lot of room in your budget to knock out some of this debt. Also, $900 in gas is absurd. And I'm thinking that's because the truck has horrible gas mileage. So hopefully by getting rid of the truck, that'll also help you save some money here. But I want you to find a way to cut this category in half. You should not be spending this much on gas. It's ridiculous. So by selling this truck and by cutting your gas, you should now have $2,000 a month in excess to pay off this debt. And right now is the time to hustle. You and your husband need to be doing whatever you can to make extra money. Like seriously, one of you should be working like 80 hours a week if you can. If you can scrounge together another $1,000 a month, that's going to make a huge impact on how fast you get out of this. So by selling the car, cutting the budget, working your butts off, if you can find $3,000 to put towards this debt every month, you'll be out of all of this debt in just a little over 2 years. And the harder you work to earn more money, the faster you'll get out of that. 2 years seems like a long time now, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not. And you're right, you're in a crisis. You need to take responsibility and get out of this. And then after that, you'll have a lot of newly freed up income to do things like build up your emergency fund, invest for your retirement, etc. But again, this is really a mindset shift. You need to get ready to work hard for the next couple of years, get out of this debt, take responsibility, and set yourself up so that this type of situation doesn't happen again. But I believe in you. I think you can do this. Best of luck.